As the great poet Dirk Nowitzki once said, shut it down. Let's go home.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and probably saddest daily Texas Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a criminally addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. Hey, dear God, if you're here today, God bless you. You are a real sicko, and I mean that as the highest form of a compliment. You can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers, where we will be kicking the can down the road for the rest of this season because, my goodness, it feels like it is just the most over it has ever been in a Texas Rangers season. Before we get into today's show, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Now, the Rangers lost yesterday, and it was bad, and it sucked, and I hated it, and I hated basically every second of it, outside of the seconds of it where it looked like this team was going to win, which was most of the back half of this game. The Rangers did score 4 runs, which this year has been the magical number that means, oh, that's a winning number. You score 4 runs with this offense that has been poo-poo garbage crap for most of this year. They weren't yesterday. They were a little bit poo-poo, but not awful by any means, and definitely did enough to win this game. And that loss was not on them. It is squarely on the shoulders of one man, Phil freaking Maton. But it's just one of those back-breaking losses, just soul-destroying losses that absolutely shatters teams. This is not the kind of thing that you come back from and rally around. And that was supposed to happen after Monday's game. After Monday's game, when the Rangers were dead in the water, down 6-1, they rally back and score 6 unanswered runs for their best comeback of the year, picking up their ace after a day where he was down. And then they poop the bed, shoot themselves in the foot, the knee, the ankle, the face, the everywhere on Tuesday's game, and they lose that game in mind-bogglingly stupid fashion, which, part of that was the bullpen to blame. A bigger part of that was the offense scoring just 2 runs for what felt like the 1800th time this season. And the Rangers lose that one. And then you come back on Wednesday. You have Merrill Kelly on the mound with a possible revenge game against his former team that traded him away after a very disappointing season for the Diamondbacks. And he's just kind of mediocre, which is better than he's been in his first 2 starts. Goes through 6 innings, a quality start, 6 innings, 2 runs, outduels his former teammate and longtime friend Zach Gallen, who went 5 innings and allowed 3 runs, and turns it over to the bullpen, who for a little while did a really good job. But this is just one of those kind of a losses, just tagging on to what has been so many losses like this, so many blown saves, so many just heartbreaking, gut-wrenching losses where you did enough to win and you still could not get the job done. I mean, this team has been so bad in one-run games. It's just kind of mind-boggling. I mean, they're 17 and 23, a 42.5% winning percentage in one-run games. That should be around 500. The Rangers have just not been that. They have not been able to squeak those out. They have not been able to win the close ones. They have not been able to come back in these games. And every single lead is so incredibly precarious because this offense has not been able to score. I talked about it ad nauseum on yesterday's show, just feeling like I am stuck in a time loop movie with this freaking team, just watching the same type of losses over and over and over again. And, well, at least with yesterday's loss, that's not something that I have really seen. A reliever who is just the most on that you've ever seen, with 1 out left to get, just forgets how to pitch and explodes a game that was a must-win game in the worst way possible. I mean, this team has just completely pooped all over itself since the trade deadline. 4-8 since the trade deadline. 4-8. This is a team that was 16-9 in July. They were much better over the back half of June, still a 500 month then. I mean, they were in a rough way, but this is still an incredibly good pitching staff with a bunch of very talented hitters who are not hitting like very talented hitters. It is just the most confusing team I've ever watched, the most infuriating team I have ever watched in any sport. Honestly, this team perplexes me to no end. I have researched hours upon hours, maybe even days worth of stats, of StatCast, of underlying metrics, of reading things, of talking to people, of Zapruder filming, dugout shots. I don't know what else to do to understand how this team has failed so spectacularly this year. They're back to being a 500 team. I don't imagine they will be above 500 the rest of this year. Truly, I do not imagine they get back there because they're about to start a road trip against the best team in the American League. And then they're going to have 4 games on the road against the Royals. And this team has been truly on the road. BUTT booty cheeks on the road. It has been abysmal to watch. They're 37-26 at home. That's nearly a 60% win percentage. And they're a 400 team on the road, 24-35. They are just so darn bad on the road. And it's because they can't score. They just cannot score on the road. And they're going to, at least 4 of the games that they're going to be playing in Kansas City are going to be incredibly run dense environment, not a very high run scoring environment. It gets a very good pitching and defensive team in the Kansas City Royals. And this is a stretch of 2 weeks without an off day. This is the longest stretch that they have left without an off day on the calendar. And they're heading into it with they flew out yesterday. I think they're in Toronto now, and they will have a lot of time to just sit and think about what they've done. And what they've done has been absolutely terrible. This show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. They've got all kinds of different tools. You can link your accounts. You can see what you're paying for, what you're getting, a little bit off track in your spending goals. You can start saving more different places. Monarch's got so many different tools for you. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Shout out to the everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. I think I'll be back on tomorrow's show. I'm going out of town. We'll see if I'll be able to get an episode up talking about prospects because I can't really talk much more about this major league team this week because they have just driven me to absolute madness. I mean, this is just, it sucks. It absolutely sucks. I mean, this team is so infuriating. It is truly stealing the joy out of the sport that I have made a career and a living off of covering. I have spent nearly a more than a decade at this point trying to cultivate a following and an audience and a talent for finding some juicy nugget or just being able to say things differently, talk about a baseball team that I have loved, a sport that I have loved, and it is draining the love of this sport out of me watching this team do the same dang thing every freaking day, having to find some new way to say wow, this pitching staff really good. Offense, bad. Defense, kind of good. Bullpen, who knows? Bruce Bochy, should he do this? Should he do that? Oh, they did this. They did that. It didn't work. I don't know. Maybe they should try this thing. Or maybe this guy will help. Maybe this prospect will come up and help. Maybe this line of configuration will help. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. If I knew, if I knew how to fix this lineup and make the good hitters hit good and the pitchers stay pitching good, I don't think I would be employed in this capacity. I'm pretty sure Chris Young, if he had heard that I knew how to fix things, would have called me up and paid me a hefty sum to be in the Texas Rangers front office and just fix those things. And you know what? I like living. I would like living in that world a little bit more. Now that'd be really nice for me to just be so smart that I knew all the answers of how to solve a problem that so many baseball lifers, so many brilliant people that the Rangers employ and have spent countless sleepless nights trying to figure out how the heck do we fix this crap and have come up with Jack Daily Squad. I mean, they've come up with answers. They have come up with attempts at solutions, and those solutions have not worked. They just have not worked at all. And it's getting to the point where, a lot of people were second guessing, oh, well, Chris Young should have gotten a bat at the deadline. Oh, he should have gotten this at the deadline. Oh, he should have gotten that at the deadline. I mean, whatever's wrong with this team, I don't think a certain player would fix it. I mean, the mind funk that is occupying this lineup and honestly the closer role, it feels like we'll talk about that in a second. It feels like it could infect anybody who would join this team. I mean, Pete Barry Bonds could jump on this team and he'd maybe have a 750 OPS. I mean, it just feels like that is how pervasive the offensive guffaw of this season is. I mean, Jock Peterson was one of the best hitters in baseball last year. By far. It was not particularly close. He comes in and he's just awful. Historically, categorically awful. The Rangers trade off Nathaniel Lowe. They bring in Jake Berger, a guy who is just pencil him in for 30 plus home runs every single year. And he had a big homer last night. I mean, shout out to Berger for doing the dang thing. A couple of hits, including a rally starting insurance run in the 8th inning, giving the Rangers a 2-run lead heading into that 9th inning that looked like it should be enough. And it really should have been. It absolutely should have been. And it's showing that the Rangers defense is so darn important on that rally. I mean, a dropped pop-up because 3 guys were all going for a foul pop-up and nobody communicated. The pitcher went in hard to go and get it. And at the last minute said, oh, just kidding. I don't want it. And then it drops. And then 2 pitches later, Jake Berger singles through the right side. And shout out to Josh Young for that clutch RBI double. I mean, he also worked a walk in this one. I mean, he had a rough first couple of days of this series, but this was a nice game for Josh Young and for Jake Berger and for Evan Carter, who is back off the IL after dealing with some back spasms. I mean, literally at the exact same time, I was also dealing with some back spasms. I'm not fully ready to come off the IL just yet. I might need a few more rehab podcasts in the minor leagues of whatever minor league podcasts are. But Evan Carter jumps back in there and immediately just a great offensive day. I mean, drives in a run the first time he gets a chance. I mean, he hits a double right into the gap, stretches what might have been a single for most people into a double into the gap, then hits a ball 105 miles an hour on the button, doesn't quite lift it enough to be a homer. Looked like, I mean, a couple of these well-struck balls into the gap that I feel like in 2023 would have been homers, like the sac fly from Marcus Semien, like that line drive out from Corey Seager, 104.5 miles an hour that looked like it felt off the bat like it should have been a homer. I mean, it was a barrel. It was a pitch that was hit at a very, very high exit velocity at the ideal launch angle, and maybe the ball being deadened, maybe that has something to do with why this offense can't hit good anymore. I mean, the ball has been traveling 10, 15, the times 20 feet less than an average year. And Major League Baseball is saying, that's weird. But we didn't do anything to it, even though we own the company that makes the baseballs and manufactures the baseballs. And we very obviously covered up data that we juiced the baseballs in 2019. Don't worry about that. We have no idea why offense is down across the league like crazy. No idea. I totally believe you, Major League Baseball. Rob Manfred has never lied or tried to cover up anything. No, that's not. The guy who just swept the Houston Astros cheating scandal under the rug, that's not the guy to cover up anything, right? But that's where we are. It's things like that you're pointing to, because there are not really, that's not a complete explanation for why this team has not been able to hit for Jack Daly squat with runners in scoring position in clutch situations. It's not an example. It doesn't matter how much they deadened or juiced the ball. That's not really something that it would affect. it would just affect the general hitting. But that specifically and the offense in general and just the everything about this team, it is infuriating. It is exhausting. It is an unending bugaboo of bugaboos to just figure out what the heck's going on with this team. And to watch this pitching staff, who outside of this absolutely a masterclass of poo poo of Phil Maton breakdown, it's been really darn good this year. Heck, the bullpen overall has been really darn good, except for the specific save situations. Whoever the Rangers put in that closer's role has been just nightmares. I mean, even Merrill Kelly was just kind of mediocre in this one. The Rangers traded a couple of really good prospects to go get him for 1 year. And he has not lived up to his end of the bargain. Credit to him for, owning up to it. Before this game, he said, I have not, lived up to my end of the bargain. These are two prospects who I really, really liked. A couple lefties who I really think are going to be solid, serviceable back end starting pitchers in the big leagues for many years, including a local boy in Cole Drake and Mitch Bratt, who I really, really like. Those kids and their makeup, and I think they're going to be really good pitchers someday. And I kind of wish that it was for the Rangers because trading for Phil Maton this year, going for it this year, felt like the move. They won. They put themselves in a position to be buyers at the deadline, to make the moves. There was no question as to whether they should be making moves. They were, a game and a half out at the break? Maybe half a game out of that final wild card? I mean, they were really darn close within 3 games, which, you look at the standings right now, and I mean, that may not look like the Rangers are totally out of it. They're 3.5 back of that final wild card. The Yankees have been nothing special as of late. The Guardians have been somehow on fire. And thankfully for the Rangers, everybody ahead of them in the wild card chase last night also lost. Mariners, Red Sox, Yankees, Guardians, all of them lost. So the Rangers aren't another full game back of everybody. But even the team right behind them, now just half a game behind them in the Kansas City Royals, they are still down. And the Rangers didn't lose ground in that. They did lose ground in the AL West race, but still. Now they head into Toronto, a team that has just absolutely caught fire for the last 4 months and is hitting everyone and everything and pitching really good. And I don't know if we're going to see Max Scherzer in this series. I'm not sure exactly how the pitching, the Toronto Blue Jays has not announced their rotation for this weekend, but you got Jacob deGrom, Patrick Corbin, and Nathan Eovaldi. Maybe the Rangers can do something with that. Maybe. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't have much faith in this team right now because of what they've done this year, because of the way they have frustrated, because of how they have just peed down their own legs ever since it turned into August. This is an incredibly infuriating team. And while they are not mathematically out of it, emotionally, it feels like this season is just incredibly dead. Thanks to one or two or several pretty terrible pitches by Phil Maton. Shout out to the everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. After every single game, Jeff Biggs is with you with a Locked On Rangers postcast. He'll be with you all weekend long, covering all of this series against the Toronto Blue Jays and your Locked On Rangers podcast feeds on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Now, there has been a problem with this Rangers bullpen, which before the deadline had the 3rd best ERA in all of baseball. And the problem was they didn't have a closer. Now, I poo-pooed this. I said, no, closers don't matter. Closers don't matter as much as people make them matter. But people are making them matter a lot because the Rangers are making them matter a lot. This team is 29 of 52 in save opportunities. Just a little bit above half of their save opportunities have they finished out in those 9th inning moments. Just absolutely inexcusably bad for a pen that has been mostly really darn good. I mean, it doesn't matter who the Rangers have put in that closer's role, whether it was to start the season with Luke Jackson, that did not work. Robert Garcia for a little while kind of worked and then very much did not work. And now with Phil Maton, who had been untouchable, comes into this game and just, well, he starts this game incredibly good, just truly exceptional, an immaculate inning. Well, it would have been immaculate had he started with that first hitter in the top of the inning, or in the start of the inning, the first out of the inning. But he comes in, he strikes out the first batter that he faces on 3 pitches. Tyler Locklear. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. So sorry to see you. Get out of here. Next guy he faces, Jake McCarthy. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Go to bed. It's your bedtime. You don't have daylight savings, so your bedtime is a little bit altered here in the Central Time Zone. Alec Thomas. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. 3 straight swinging strikes, including a final one in the dirt where he didn't even run to first base. 2 outs in the 9th inning, 2-run lead. Okay, he hasn't even thrown a ball. He's thrown 9 straight strikes, 3 straight strikeouts. You cannot start an outing any better. Now, should the Rangers have maybe let Hoby Milner finish out that inning? Possibly. Possibly things could have gone a little bit differently there had he not walked Lourdes Gurriel Jr., had he just gotten Lourdes Gurriel Jr. out after getting Ketel Marte out. The only person to get Ketel Marte out in this entire game, gets Corbin Carroll out, and then walks Lourdes Gurriel. And then Tyler Locklear comes in, and Bruce Bochy says, all right, it's time for Phil Maton. You can go get a 4-out save, which we thought would be the case. Then James McCann comes up, the number 8 hitter, a catcher who has been pretty good offensively this year, but not anybody that you should be terrified of, especially when you've just mowed down 3 pretty solid hitters on a combined 9 pitches to strike all 3 of them out. Ball 1. Okay, well, that hope for an immaculate inning and a third is gone. A ball 2. Oh, okay, not a great competitive pitch. Just get one over the plate and see where it goes. Hanging sweeper, right down Broadway, home run, 1-run ball game. Okay, that's not ideal, but because you've had the cushion of that extra run, it's still a winnable game. Then Blaze Alexander, ball 1 to him. Okay, get a grip. Get strike 1. Okay, swinging strike, cutter down the middle. Okay, a little bit got away with it there with Phil Maton, and then hits him in the butt with a curveball. Not ideal, but okay, just get 1 out. You are now back to the top of this lineup. Really not what you wanted to do, of let the 2 guys at the bottom of this order get on base and start doing stuff. Really not what you want. Then you face the leadoff guy, Geraldo Perdomo, who has been very, very good this year. He sees 4 straight pitches that are nowhere near competitive, and then gets ahead of Ketel Marte with a curveball in the zone. A pretty decent pitch, hittable if Ketel Marte was wanting to jump all over it, but because he was so wild, Ketel Marte smartly saw what was happening in the previous at-bats because his face wasn't stuck in an iPad. He was actually watching the game and what was going on and altering his approach based on the situation at hand. Then ball 2, 1-1 pitch. Okay, let's come back with the curveball in the zone, see if we can, get another strike, get a swing and a miss or something. Hanging curveball, absolutely obliterated. Completely different ball game. Game over at that point. The Rangers could have gotten back on this, pretty not great pen of Arizona, but Andrew Saalfrank just shuts them down 3 in a row. Nothing to do. It's over. Just an absolutely horrible outing. And had they been able to get somebody in there, Robert Garcia was warming in a hurry in the bullpen. Robert Garcia, a guy who just his last outing got himself into some extreme trouble, then out of some trouble with just one of the silliest, most boneheaded errors I've seen a pitcher make in quite some time. After looking like he had righted himself against Philly in a couple of great outings, he looked, not nearly as great in that game against Arizona. And the Rangers end up losing that game by a total of 1 run, which he gave up 1 run. That wasn't the deciding run. That was given up by a homer by Danny Coulomb, who has mostly been pretty darn good. And it goes back to kind of the philosophy with this bullpen. This is the softest throwing bullpen in baseball. David Murphy was talking about on the broadcast. He's like, when I saw that, I thought, no, that's not the case. And I was like, how do you not think that's the case? How do you not think that is the case? There is nobody in this pen who throws upper 90s. Nobody in this pen currently as constructed who throws 100 miles an hour. The only person who does that is, Jacob deGrom and Jack Leiter. And I think Kumar Rockert has done it a time or two. But when you have guys like Hobie Milner, guys like Sean Armstrong, guys like Jacob Webb, even Luke Jackson. I mean, Jacob Latz is not necessarily a super hard thrower. Chris Martin, no longer a hard thrower out there. And then you add two guys like Phil Maton and Danny Coulomb, who are both very good pitchers, but throwing hard is not what they do. You go look on their baseball savant page; it's full of a lot of red because they do a lot of things well. But throwing the baseball hard is not that. They still have good stuff because of the way they're breaking balls and their stuff just plays because they have great, location. They have great movement on their pitches. They have great deception on their stuff, and they don't have velocity though. And the Rangers have given up the most homers in baseball on 0-2 counts. And people have been asking why. And the reason why is because the Rangers don't have velocity. Now, there's a difference between velocity and stuff. You can have just straight velocity and your stuff can be bad. There have been several relievers in baseball who have just been, bad because they might throw 100, but it doesn't move anywhere. It's not deceptive. You can see exactly what it looks like coming out of the hand, and big league hitters could time up a bullet if they can see it coming, and if you have nothing else to throw off of that velocity. I mean, Hunter Green was a really good example of early on in his career. He didn't have great peripherals and stuff on the four-seam fastball. It's kind of like Kumar Rocker. Rocker throws the ball hard, but when he's more in that 93 to 96 range, it's a lot more hittable than when it's 96 to 98. It just velocity. It's not everything. It's not the only thing by any means. But what it does is give you margin for error. And if you're a kind of location, funky, crafty, pitchability, deception kind of a guy, you don't have that luxury when you're missing middle. If you've gotten a 2-strike count, you've gotten ahead of the hitter 0-2, and a ball slips out of your hand, and it's supposed to be a slider that's in the dirt as opposed to a slider that's right over the middle of the plate. Guys are going to tee off on that stuff. If you're a fastball specialist like, Merrill Kelly, and you throw 92 to 94, then when you miss location with a sinker that's supposed to be on the outside corner and it ends up over the middle of the plate, guys will tee off on that stuff. And you just don't have that margin for error. Even if you have a whole bunch of different versions of that fastball, if guys can recognize it, they can sit on it and barrel it up when it's a mistake. They can recognize it and go attack it and do some damage on it if you don't have that velocity. That is why velocity is so darn important. Because when Jacob deGrom's at his best and he's missing middle with a four-seam fastball that's 99, 100 miles an hour, or when he was at his peak, up to 101, 102, you're able to get away with that kind of stuff. And with Jack, now that he's added that sinker and that changeup and some other pitches, when he was throwing that four-seam fastball, even though it had good properties, even if it was, 98 miles an hour, right down the heart of the plate, guys were able to tee off on it and just go yard on it because they could recognize it, because he had the velocity, but he didn't have the other stuff to kind of set it up. Now, even with that extra couple of ticks on his fastball that Jack has now, if you're throwing 100 by guys and they're not exactly sure if it's going to be a four-seamer or it's going to be a two-seamer, they can't just sit on that stuff and recognize it and square it up and tee off, even if it is in the middle of the zone, because you don't have that extra time to figure out exactly what it is and where it's going. And while you could sit here and bemoan Chris Young for saying, wow, you're so stupid. Why do you go get some guys who can't throw hard? Because the guys who throw hard, they cost higher prospect packages. They cost more in prospect capital. They are harder to find. But if you can find guys who can be trusted in October in a closer's role, which we'll see. I think you could throw Mariano Rivera into this pen right now, and maybe even he would blow a few saves. But I think it's smart what he did. He found a market inefficiency for guys who can pitch well and limit runs, even if it looks like, different. Like Hobie Milner. I don't think he's touched 90 miles an hour this year, but he's been an incredibly effective reliever in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different stints, a lot of different situations. I mean, he's been incredibly valuable. And he doesn't have that velocity. Again, you've got to do something weird. You got to do something special to be effective with that. Danny Coulomb, a guy who, does not touch 92 miles an hour, I don't think, this year. Maybe he has a couple times, but still, being able to find those guys off the scrap heap and, not go all in, even though this team put themselves in a situation to be buyers at the deadline, he didn't mortgage too much of the future. And as much as I like the prospects that were given up, none of them were guys who were going to look down the line in 5-6 years and they're multi-time all-stars. I don't think. I hope I'm wrong for the sake of Cole Drake and Mitch Bratt, because I really like those guys and hope they succeed. But he did the best he could. And at the end of the day, this is on the players. This is on what the players have done on the field. This is not on Bruce Bochy. This is not on the coaching staff. This is not on the front office. Heck, as much as I would like to blame Ray Davis and his occasional cheap skatery of worrying about the salary cap luxury tax that functions as a salary cap, it's not even on him. He greenlit going into the luxury tax for this team. And the players just have not been good enough. It feels like the season is dead. Some miracle run could happen. Bruce Bochy could pull a rabbit out of a hat. Heck, Cody Freeman could come up and just start becoming, 2023 Evan Carter for a month and a half. That'd be nice. But I do not see it coming because this team has given me very little reason to believe in their chances to do anything, especially after the most abysmal loss of the season, just 2 days after the best win. No momentum is being made. Nothing is good right now. And baseball just kind of sucks for Rangers fans. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And if you can, find any way to enjoy baseball.